Hi, guys. Welcome back to the She Who Leads podcast. I'm your host, Daniela Varga, your intuitive soul business coach. And in this episode, I want to address the elephant in the room, which is the imposter syndrome that I think all of us feel when we start to build our business. It's this nagging voice in our head telling us that we're not ready, that we are a fraud, that we actually are trying to make people believe that we are more of an expert than we are. And I know how hard that is. I know how much of a pressure that is that we actually put on ourselves. And because of this whole imposter syndrome, how much we actually struggle in our business, not just being present in it and being able to post and enjoy it, but also putting on a lot of burden on ourselves of being perfect or over delivering on things, because that somehow creates the illusion for ourselves that if I just over deliver, if I tell them all of these things that I know, if I just like give them this amount of information, if I share these tools and give like value, then there will be like some magical moment where I stop feeling like an imposter and I will start feel like as an authority in the space, because that's ultimately what we all want to feel, right? To feel like, okay, so I'm the expert, I feel like an expert, and I'm actually an authority in my industry. And one of the first things that I see people misunderstand about the imposter syndrome is that it somehow is tied to what you know. And if you know enough, then you won't feel as an imposter. And this is actually not the case. This is not true. This is not the root of the whole imposter syndrome. Um, but before I forgot, before I dive in, like what is the actual root of the imposter syndrome, I wanted to share that I created a free community for you guys, for all of you soulpreneurs or wannabe, wannabe soulpreneurs who want to change the world, who want to create an impact, who wants to build a business around their purpose and wants to bring a better life into this world, who you know that you have that in you, but maybe somehow it just feels out of reach. It feels like you don't have what it takes. It feels like you don't know what to do. It's just like confusing and overwhelming. And this whole business thing, even though this is supposed to be something that you like, but it somehow turned into something that is the most dreaded part of your day. I know that feeling. I know that feeling very, very well. And I specifically created this space, this community for you to have the support on finding what is your unique value, on seeing how you can actually create that transformation that you want to create in this world, how you can build that business that is aligned with you and your gifts and your strengths, and how you best communicate, how you best connect with people. We are all focusing on that, basically, how you can build a business from your purpose, from your soul pool. And there will be specific topics bi-weekly in this community, and we are actually diving deep into the imposter syndrome next week, starting next week. So seeing what are the different root causes of the imposter syndrome, seeing how you can actually shift that, what are the rewiring, the nervous system rewiring tools, the subconscious rewiring tools that we all need, like how you can actually shift this subconsciously so you are not finding yourself over and over and over again in the same pattern. That is what we are starting next week. This is a completely free community. You can get there, you can ask your questions. I am definitely will be doing a lot of guiding in there, a lot of tools in there. Definitely you will do intuitive reads in there. So it is a place to be if you really want to embody your soulpreneur version. If you want to embody your soulpreneur identity, which is already in you, you just need to connect to her or him. Uh, that is the place that will get you started. That is the place that will set you the scene of, okay, what am I? Who am I as a soulpreneur? Because everyone will be unique. But when you find your anchors, which we are working on in this community, the embodied soulpreneur community, then you will actually start to live that person. You actually take actions as that person, and that is what will lead you to building the business that you love, and the business where you don't feel like an imposter, right? Because we don't want to feel like an imposter in our own business. We want to feel as the expert, the authority, the person who people come to for help and guidance, right? So link in the description. And as I so subtly got back to the imposter syndrome topic, so let's dive back into that, because I want to get the foundations with this in this podcast episode. I want you to start to understand where this is coming from. And also, I want you to understand how you can start to shift this whole imposter syndrome. So, first of all, what I want you to see and already like shift it is that we tend to label things as good and bad, right? And whenever we label something as bad, like predominantly bad, we will start to have a specific reaction to that thing. We will start to have a specific relationship with that thing. And this would actually mean that we will start to have a different reaction to parts of ourselves and have a different relationship with parts of ourselves. Because the imposter syndrome is coming from you kind of labeling parts of yourself as bad, let's say it that way, or not enough, or not what people expect, or not what it's liked, or whatever. And because we do this, what starts to happen actually energetically and also physically is that we start to reject that thing. We start to resist that thing. And the more you resist something, the more it persists in your life because of the law of opposing forces, right? Like for everything that we really, really, really want, that thing needs to not want us really, really badly. So there will be balance in this universe. With something that we really, really, really don't want, that thing would want us very, very, very much, again, to be in balance, to this world to be in balance, because this world was built on balance. This world was built on polar opposites, and it was built on balance. Now, with this whole thing, when we see imposter syndrome as something that is purely bad, then we will start to resent it. We will start to resist it, which means we are starting to resent and resist part of ourselves, which is never a good way to go. And also, because we are so resistant to this imposter syndrome, that, and again, we are in an imbalance underlying that imposter syndrome, right? Like that's what I want you to see. So the imposter syndrome is there because there are parts of your life where you are imbalanced with who you actually truly are. So you believed something about yourself that is not true. You believed something about the world that is not true. You maybe believe that people are perceiving you in a different way, that they actually are perceiving you. And that's where the imbalances are coming from. And that's what can actually manifest itself as an imposter syndrome, feeling like an imposter, right? So, what you first and foremost need to see is that imposter syndrome is not actually just bad, because everything in this world is equally good and equally bad. And when you start to see that as something that actually, oh, this is good in my life, this brings something that I benefit from, then you won't resist it. So the imposter syndrome won't really need to snuck on you all the time to get your attention of, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me, like you are an imposter. People will think you're a fraud because you're resisting me. You're not basically taking care of me. So I am louder and louder and louder. It's kind of like, having a small child, and the child wants your attention. And until you gave that child the attention, the kid will be just louder and louder and louder and louder. And the moment you actually answer the question, or look where they want you to look, they will stop, right? This is kind of how these things within us work. They just need our attention and shift our perspective on what we are seeing, and that is basically already releasing a lot of the tension that we are feeling with that thing or towards that thing. It won't actually always solve the problem. A lot of the times it does, but it not solves the problem completely, because again, you need to shift the underlying imbalances of the imposter syndrome. But you will feel less pressured about it. You will feel less guilty about it. You will feel less ashamed about it, for example, which is already a big, 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 big relief. So what I want you to see is that, like, imposter syndrome is good in a lot of ways, because first of all, it helps you grow, right? Like, the imposter syndrome could be the fuel of you learning more, coming up with new solutions, coming up with new ideas, coming up with new versions of what you are creating. So actually, it's a very, very good fuel for your growth, because it always prompts you to gather more information, to understand the topic that you want to be an expert on even more, which is a good thing. It's a very, very, very good thing. So that's one thing that the imposter syndrome is giving in your life. Another thing is that imposter syndrome actually proves that you care, like you care about the transformation that you want to create. Because if you wouldn't really care about the people on the other side, if you wouldn't really care about helping these people, you wouldn't really feel like an imposter, because, like, okay, I'm just like selling them whatever I sell them, get the money, and I'm out of my way, right? And that's not really a good place to be in. That's a very, very empty life and a very, very empty place to be in. So you actually feeling like an imposter shows that you really, really deeply care about the people you want to help, that you have a big heart, that you have a beautiful, beautiful soul, and you actually want to provide quality. You want to provide something that really, truly works for people. And that is an amazing, amazing quality to have. That is a beautiful thing to have. Another thing why imposter syndrome might be an amazing thing is that it shows you your blind spots, right? Like, again, shows you all the things that you don't know yet. So it's actually making you a better expert, this imposter syndrome. The feelings and all the other things that is attached to being an imposter is what's making this a very, tiring and exhausting. But the whole result of what happens because you feel like an imposter, it is, again, you becoming a better expert, you actually showing up more, showing up in a better version of yourself, right? Because, again, you have this want to grow, you have this neck for, oh, okay, so what am I missing still, right? Like, you're always looking for the details, you're always looking for those missing pieces that you maybe don't know yet, or didn't figure out yet, or don't have the solution yet, which is such a huge value for anyone who works with you, because that will mean that you will actually give your 110%. and they could be sure that they can count on you. And that is, again, building so much trust and creating such a beautiful relationship between you and the people you are helping. So that's, again, a big, big, big win for the imposter syndrome. What you can do now is I want you to start to come up with your own reasons why actually feeling like an imposter is a good thing for you right now. Like, what is it giving to your life? How is it helping you grow? How is it helping you get the results that you want? How is it um, maybe saving you from making mistakes? Like, whatever you can find that feels like, oh wow, that's very good, that's very good, I like that, I like that, actually this is helping me. That will be helping you neutralize this feeling of, oh, me being an imposter is the worst thing ever, right? Like, that is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. Now, as for the underlying root of this whole thing, and again, there are multiple components to this, but what I want you to understand now is the whole umbrella of these components, like the common ground between all of these components and how you can start to shift that. So, because like I said in the beginning, we believe, or we usually believe, that I feel like an imposter because I either don't have enough expertise, right? Like, I don't have enough experiences in this field to be able to see myself as an expert. I only started to do this like a year ago. And what can I have learned in a year? Like, that's nothing compared to X and Y and Z. Um, the other thing is, oh, I don't know enough, right? Like, that's the other thing that we usually go for, is I don't know enough. And because I don't know enough, I am an imposter, because I tell people that I am an expert of XYZ, but I know that I don't know everything there's to know, or I don't know what XYZ knows, because again, they have been studying this for like 5 to 10 to 15 years, and I'm nowhere to them. And that is a very big component to the imposter syndrome, which I would like you to see too, is the comparison. Imposter syndrome always kind of entangles with us comparing ourselves to others. We comparing ourselves to the other experts in our field. We comparing ourselves to our mentors. Oh, I am a big, 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 I don't know, like, I'm doing that all the time. That's what I want to say. Like, when I start to learn from someone, I actually expect myself to be that person, or be at the same level as that person, like basically 1 month from now, which is so irrational. But I have this tendency of wanting to be super fast and wanting to, jump from 0 to 10. And because of that, it's very, very easy for me to fall into this comparison game of, oh my God, I'm not as good as in this, I don't know, reading future timelines as my mentor, who has been doing this for 30 plus years. Obviously, I am not as good as him, or don't know as much yet as him. But again, that doesn't mean that I am an imposter. It doesn't mean I am an imposter in this field. It's just I have different ways of doing things, and I have different skill sets and stuff like that. So we're just so much in this habit of comparing ourselves to someone else. I even catch myself a lot of the times comparing myself to this magical future version that I imagine myself to be in, like, I don't know, 1 year or 2 year or 5 years. And then feeling an imposter compared to that version of mine. Like, how like messed up is that? But I think that's also something that we subconsciously do a lot of the times, of feeling like, oh, I actually should be at this level with this skill already, or this level with the knowledge already. And we're not just comparing ourselves to others, but we're comparing ourselves to like a version of ourselves who believe actually knows all this. And that's where all the rushing comes in with this whole thing. And what I just like you to again sit with a bit and think about and feel into it, like, who are you comparing yourself to? Who are you comparing yourself to? And then as a result, you feel as an imposter. Is it your mentor? Is it someone on social media you follow and feel like is ahead of you? Is it a friend? Is it a business partner? Is it yourself, your future self? Like, who are you comparing yourself to? And why? What are you expecting yourself to be? Who are you expecting yourself to be? That's actually the better question. Who are you expecting yourself to be? And I also want you to just imagine of like, what if you don't need to be any of those person or any of those people? Even that magical future version of yourself, what if you don't need to be that version? What if you only need to be you right now? And that is what the people need. That is exactly what the people need right now in your life. Not the magical future version, not the mentor that you had, but like yourself right now. What would that feel like? What would that look like? Why would people want you now? Start to see the reasons. Why would people want you now, right now, over your future version, over your mentor? Just start to sit with this. Start to let the ideas come in and see how you actually like can shift away from this comparison and just like be in the now and be in who you are right now, because that version of you is already perfect and already perfectly able to help people and already perfectly capable to build a business and make the business a success. So that's also a very important part of this whole process. But with this all said, the whole root of imposter syndrome, why we feel like we are a fraud and we are actually misguiding people, is not the knowledge, it's not even the expertise, it's the disconnect from seeing the transformation that we are able to provide for people. Meaning that you don't really emotionally connect to the transformation that you are creating in people's lives. Maybe you don't even see the transformation that you are able to create right now. And even if you see the transformation, you are not really emotionally connecting to that. You're not really believing that that is something that is worthwhile, that is valuable, that is something that is essential in their lives. And that's the disconnect that we feel that fuels this whole imposter syndrome. Because if I cannot help, that must mean that I am an imposter, because I tell people that I am an expert of something. Because what does an expert mean? If you just think about it, an expert means that I know this topic, but just, like knowing a topic, like you wouldn't really call someone an expert of, let's say, like a mechanic. He could know everything about cars, right? Like there could be a person who knows all the things, read all the books about the cars and everything, did everything. Really, like you can quiz them, they will know the right answers, they will cite things perfectly without a mistake. Like really, they know that their brain is like, knows everything. But they are unable to repair a single car. You bring in your car, and they tell you exactly what's the problem. They can, I don't know, cite things like tell you what the the different parts are and how they connect and how they work together. Like they really like know all this stuff, and yet they give you back your car in the same condition, broken, right? And then you're like, you're not an expert. You are like someone who knows a lot about cars. And that's the difference, and that's what we are not really seeing here, is that I'm not expecting myself, when I feel like I'm an imposter, I'm not expecting really myself to know a lot of things. I'm expecting myself to give the solution to people. And if I cannot do that, then I feel like I'm an imposter. See, like that's the real fuel of this whole thing, not the knowledge, not even the expertise, because again, those two things will result in you being able to create the transformation in people's lives. Obviously, for you to be able to come up with solutions to see a problem and see like what can be the solution for that, first you will need a knowledge of like understanding how the different parts of the car work, right? Like if I have the expertise of like, let's say, again going back to the mechanic example, like let's say someone has the expertise of working with cars and like doesn't really know like the names of different parts and stuff like that, but like he can like make things work, like we have this word in Hungarian. It's like this garage tuning people who, like this hobby mechanics who believe themselves to be the true mechanics, which it's perfect, like until you actually bring your car to them and then they make a lot of mess. So like they can kind of solve problems, but again, they're still not an expert because they don't really have the knowledge of like, okay, what are the different parts, how they are connect, what will be the result if I do like what. It's not even knowing about the different parts, but just like understanding, like understanding how a car works. Like that is a knowledge that you need to acquire to be an expert. On the other side, you can know how a car works, still wouldn't be able to fix it because, I don't know, there's a leakage here and you needed to fix that leakage 10 times before until you figure it out, like, oh, how can you finally like fix it for good, right? Like that is where the expertise part comes in this whole thing. And the two together, the knowledge and the experience of doing things and figuring out the issues and finding solutions for them, and then those solutions don't work out and then you find another solution and another solution and another solution, finally you find the solution that seemingly works 100% of the time, which it usually does. That is what creates an expert: knowledge and experience. That's your recipe basically for being an expert. And this will translate you into you being able to solve people's problems, right? And that is when you feel like, oh, I'm actually not an imposter, because if someone comes in with a problem, I have a solution and that solution works and they go away without having a problem. That's the whole thing. So the disconnect, when there's a disconnect with this at any point of this journey, you feeling like you don't have the knowledge that it takes, you feel like you don't have the experience that you take, you feel like your problems don't you don't understand the problems really, or you feel like your solutions don't work, the whole thing boils down to you feeling like the transformation that you are able to create right now is just not really a worthwhile transformation, or you're not even able to create a transformation. And that's why you feel like you are acting as an expert, posing as someone who has the solution, but in your heart you don't really believe that you have the solution, so you feel as a fraud. That's the whole thing to it. That's the the entangled space of imposter syndrome. So with the tools I gave you in this podcast, you will start to put down the resistance towards the imposter syndrome part, like all the feelings, all the heavy negative feelings that are connected and tied to imposter syndrome. And you will also start to let go of the comparison. And that are your first two steps right now. That will be more than enough. And also, now that you know that actually your job is not acquiring more knowledge or gaining more experience in something to feel less of an imposter, it's your job is to connect to the transformation emotionally, accrued into the transformation that you create. Now there are steps to that. It and different components to that, like what you kind of need to reprogram in yourself to be able to like fully connect to that, root into that, and feel into that, and see like, wow, this is super cool, which partly comes from you, comes from your unique value. It also comes from the different like energetic components that again goes into that, which we will dive into in the free community that I mentioned, the embodied inner soulpreneur, which you find the link in the description. And there we actually, from next week, for 2 weeks, we go through each and every one of these components. And I give you specific tools which you can use to start to build in that new identity, build in that connection between your solutions and yourself, so you won't really feel as someone who is posing as an expert because you feel like you're an expert. You feel like you're an authority. And that is such a freaking cool feeling, because you are. Like, I can bet anything that you are already. Is just the disconnect is there because, again, we have expectations, we have conditioning that we believe that, oh, transformation can only look like this, or what is valuable is only that. And when you start detangle those, when you start to see like, okay, what are my conditionings around this, what are my conditionings around that, how can I build in this energetic ingredient, how can I build in this identity piece, so I actually feel from the inside as the expert I am right now already. That is when the shift is happening. That is when you will still feel like, oh, actually I am not posing, I am the authority. I am someone who is bringing the solutions, and that's changing the world. So that is where this whole work leads you. Like, imposter syndrome can be released, at least relieved. But I really firmly believe that it can be released with the right tools. So if there's something that interests you, I am super happy to see you in the free community and start our reprogramming work around imposter syndrome next week. And yeah, I think that was it. That was the episode. I am super, super grateful that you were here. I am coming up with more episodes like this, not specifically imposter syndrome, but like very, like business related stuff that either make your business feel like meh, like you don't want to do it, or feel the business like something that is so hard that you just like want to give up, which I don't want you to do either of those. So that's what's coming. And again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next one. Bye.